Yes, and welcome to In the Tank Live with Aaron Hairston and Keith Deyo. Today's focus is all about your release. And I'm going to set this up at a better angle because that is not great. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Here we go. As you're coming to today's broadcast, you're going to notice that there's a calming over you. And where we may have come at it before with a little bit different sense of direction and sense of energy, you're gonna feel a difference today. You're gonna feel that there's a calmness coming over you that's allowing you to fully embody who you truly are. Not only who you were born to be, but who you know you always were. I'm trying to find a good place to put this, to prop this up, and there may not be the way the light's hitting this camera. There we go. And so, you know what? I'm gonna hold it. So as we dive into this here, as we dive into this topic, we will find out that when you notice that there's a release point, there's something that you've been bumping up against. Aaron was calling it your breaking point. Aaron had identified it earlier in the week. He's identified it in the past as a breaking point. So that may be what it's called for some of you. What that breaking point is not a place for you to show up broken or to be put into pieces. It's more for you to create an identity with the actual releasing of whatever it is that's been holding you down. Whatever it is that you have found isn't allowing you to be your fullest. And I'm going to go back to my original location. I came to this location so that I could preserve some of my battery. And I'm going to go back to our original broadcast location while we wait for Aaron. And so now that you're aware that exists, now that you're aware that there's that thing called release, identify where it is for you. Identify where it exists. Identify what needs to be channeled in order for that to happen. In order for that to become a reality for you and for you to experience that, there's no change necessary. There's no I'm going to transform like we've talked about before. There is a point of transformation. Only reason it's identified that way is so that you can draw a line in the sand and say, I'm no longer what I was, and I'm everything of who I now am. It's not this transformation like you're bringing all these things in. No, it's everything being released from here, from within. Once you release that is when you're released fully, you will no longer take things personally. There's nothing anybody can say, do, or not do, or be in your presence and outside of your presence that can affect your mood longer than a 90-second period, because you will be in total control of everything that is in your path, that is in your energy field. You will have complete control over that. You'll have a clarity, a sense of awareness, and you're so focused on the future and that vision for yourself that whatever has happened, the second it happens, it's in your past, and you are no longer a reflection of your past. You actually don't even have the capacity to record it. What happens is you show up in life more like a Chromebook and less like a PC. And you're telling your brain, don't get all bogged up with everything that's in my past. Don't fill my backpack with rocks anymore. That backpack is reserved for those things I find along the way, those experiences, those things that I love, for flowers, for all the things that I'm grateful for. That's what I carry that in. That's what I carry all of those things in. It's no longer there for me to carry heavy stones. It's no longer there for me to even carry the stones of others. I am free. And because I am free, I am fully me. And that's up to all of us to find. Now we may see glimpses of it. And if you're seeing a glimpse, then write it down. Write where you were, how it happened, what time it was, only to get it on paper so that if you're a visual learner, it's there. And it creates a certain level of certainty for most of us that are driven there or driven by that, and then it's gone. But the really cool part is the act of acknowledging that it's the feeling of congruency between heart and brain. And as I get into a little bit of the science for all of us out there that love the science, or for the guys that love the facts and the figures, I'm going to allow Aaron to come on here and put that into a story as he always does, because I'm sure, although I haven't spoken to him, sure he's come across this in the that As Aaron, every time he jumps on and it's a Friday like this, what's going on, Shannon? Yo, what?
I'm talking about, let's go, baby.
Congruency. So, Aaron, I'm talking about the release. I'm talking about the release of all the things that we have ever felt in our life has suppressed any one thing or bit of us. It's all begun with us, but we've placed the blame on other things. So we can move on with our life, because the blame or the ownership of all of those things was way too heavy for us to carry. We were no longer strong enough. We knew we weren't, and we break in the process. So what happens is we find that point where you brought it up and identified it as the breaking point. I'm calling it the release. The reason why I'm calling it the release is because oftentimes when we look at things as breaking, we then think we need to show up broken. And it's not breaking in pieces, it's breaking from. So the point of breaking from creates a release in the result. That's what we're talking about. So you know that Aaron and I are on the same page. And when you feel it, when you feel that congruency between heart and brain, and you ultimately know they're both in alignment, you will find yourself at times feeling like you're floating above yourself. I was there for 2.5 hours straight today. It was insane. And I won't go in depth to how it really felt. I knew about it. I've practiced it, and I thought it was through the practice that you will create mastery. No, it's through the acknowledgement and the awareness where the mastery is found. And then from that, you will then get the reps so that you can maintain and then continue to obtain. It's not in the reverse. So my have to be brain I still get caught there. My have to be brain, no matter how much I know I'm a be do have being, my have to be comes back, and it's a trap. And it comes back at certain moments. And when I release myself from the have to be type of person and in the environment that creates that is living by that feeling, whether it's a person, place, or a thing, or a field of energy, when I release myself from that, and I know that I am not a product of my body or my environment, and I understand that to be true, that's when the zone is found. And that's when somebody, for those that grew up in the 90s and got to watch Michael Jordan, that's where he was. It was his knowing of the zone. It was his breaking point. It came out of extreme pain and disappointment for his reality. And it can happen in two ways. We talked about it yesterday in Transformation Thursday. It can happen from a place of extreme pain and discomfort, or it can happen from a place of pleasure. Once you feel it happening, once you have a knowledge of it and you know where it exists, you can then go there in pleasure. It doesn't take pain, and it didn't take pain this morning. It took absolute faith, and it took absolute pleasure. It was a point of intention where nothing else was important to me. There was no place else I'd rather be. You know what I did? I got all my cells in alignment because I fed them. I fed them the superfood they needed. I fueled my body, and then I started to fuel my mind. And when that happened, and I found congruency, and then I was affirmed, I was a ripple. And I get stuck at times being the rock all the time. And I was a ripple. And because I was that ripple, I then was able to expand and expand and expand. And if you saw the text messages on Aaron's phone, you'd be like, this dude's head spinning. What is he even talking about? This guy's out of control. He needs to be admitted. If you saw it, the string of texts I sent him, the second I wrote a word, Aaron, it was gone. The second I wrote that word, it was gone. And you should see the notes I put outside of what I sent you. Right. And then I sent you places for you to go find your message. Because if mine was there, then yours, it's a pretty good chance yours could be there too. So as you go about the day and try to digest that, whatever it was, you're going to be like, boom, the brain emoji exploding, right? So bring us into a place, bring us back together with story. Because that's really what you do so well. It's you create that feeling of oneness.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the physical, right, versus the spiritual, because we are spiritual beings going through a human experience, and whether or not we want to accept that or not, it's true, right? All of us have that spiritual inside of us, right? We have that spirit, we have that soul of ours that isn't part of this physical, and is definitely not part of the environment, right? It's
outer body.
It's completely out of the body, right? But it's in there, right? And we are given the opportunity to be able to use our hands, our feet, our eyes, our voice, right? Our body language. We're able to use this vehicle, for what it is that we truly want. So many times we forget that, and we think that's all it is. And it's sad because a lot of people think that this is all it is, and it's so much more. And really, when you remove or release the ego, right, you release the me out of all the circumstances. You release the me from all of the challenge, and you say the we, right? Because we all have certain groups of people that we associate with. And regardless of how we may or may not see the benefit or the disadvantage that we have in the group, something's happening, right? There's an impact happening. And as repetition happens, habits created, right? Habits are created. And so we must step back for a minute and release the fact that we are spiritual beings going through a human experience, and we must release the ego that comes along with being human and allow that internal voice, right? For me, it's the Holy Spirit, that guiding system. We have a natural GPS, and we can reset anytime we want. Every person that I talk to, I help them to realize that right now. I want you guys to realize that it's you and us right now. Whatever else you got going on right now, I want you to be present with this, because here's the thing: everywhere in life, you're going to have the opportunity to be distracted, to multitask, and you only have 100%. You only have 100%. And so either you're focused on the moment and being a spiritual being and being of abundance, or you're being limited by your ability and what you believe is true, right? Because that's all you know, right? That's the certainty piece that we must drive by for whatever reason, right? It's just this: is it true? Can we see it? Can we touch it? Can we smell it? Can we taste it? Like, we have to have that affirmation of, okay, it's real. And we lose so much abundance with that. So what really hit me, Keith, when I saw the subject of this live with the release, the first thing I came to is release the ego, release yourself from being just a human and being that spiritual being, being the one that has abundance, that have been created in abundance. Okay, and be able to allow yourself to be present, knowing that 100% is what you get. If you do two things at once, you can max out at 50%. And you get the idea here, right? You're doing 4 things at once, you're only getting 25%. Okay, and it's crazy because we think that we do a great job at multitasking, and what's happening is we're diluting the fact of who we are and what we're capable of by taking so much in. And so for me, Keith, the release point for me was when my friend came to me and he goes, "Why are you doing so much that has nothing in relation to each other?" And it really didn't hit me until I looked at all the things I was doing and I was involved in, I was thinking, and I said, holy smokes, how the heck am I planning on getting anywhere in life if literally I have all these forks going all types of different directions? Yes, I was busy. Yes, I felt like I was important. Yes, I felt I. But really what was happening is I was pulling myself in such a distance from really what it was, and it was this being of me that's allowing that abundance to flow through me. And it'll always tell you where you're going. And it will always give you the opportunity to see where you're at. And that's the point, Keith, that I got, right? When I saw that release, I said, wow. I said, what a great way to finish the week. Allowing people to release the ego, or release what you believe to be the limit. Release that. Let that go. Allow yourself to grow. Allow something new to come into your life. Allow change. And I know it can be very scary. Uncertainty is the part of growth that we must all incur. Now, some of us choose to run away from it. Some of us choose to quit. And many of us decided that, you know what, this is no longer for us anymore. I want familiarity the whole entire rest of my life. And that's the challenge, right? Is how do you balance what's uncertain and what's certain? How do you allow growth to come in? And how do you allow change to be your growing factor? How much change can I take? How much more can I tolerate? And the question is, who are you willing to become in the process? Because that's all that matters, right? It's not about you. It's about your being. It's about you becoming better and more aware of what's going on. So releasing the ego is the number one thing, right? They said it in Celebration, right? Your ego is not your amigo. And it really hits you hard when you look at it, because everything that we attach I to, right? It is, right? And so we must allow ourselves to say, I am a being of abundance. I am capable of allowing change to grow me, not destroy me.
Yeah, Aaron, and that when you think about that, and as you explained that and brought it to a place where we could all relate, I think of it as a hat. And I used to
Hmm.
wear a hat. I used to wear hats a lot. And I never knew why.
Hmm.
And sometimes we wear hats that have logos on them. And sometimes we have a hat that has a certain brand on it and it makes us feel a certain way. And I found myself not wearing hats a lot. And it's really weird because if there was ever a time for me to wear a hat, it'd be now. Because if you can see at the top of my head, and at 6'3", not many people can see that high. But if you can see it, and this is starting to show it here too, in the past, I would have been upset about it. I would have been like, man, gray, it's time for gray. And I would have allowed it to affect me. And so if there ever was a time to wear a hat, it'd be now. And I feel like that hat was my ego. That for me, that was my symbolism. And you may find me still wearing hats today, but it's certainly not a common thing that I'm constantly putting something on my head. When you can remove that hat, for me, that's the act of removing the ego. When you can take the cap off of all the limits that have been pressed upon you by your operating software of the past, when you can do that, you can be free. And in that freedom, you'll find your core. And when you find your core, you can then release the rest of you to the world. Remember, these gifts are not ours to be saved. And these gifts are, if you don't take care of your gift and you don't share it appropriately with the world, it now falls on the burden of your next of kin. Now, that may be somebody who you connected with heart to heart and told them what your gift was, and they saw what your gift was. You may not have even told them, but they saw. You're literally burdening them with that. And now they have 2 or 3 or 4. And I used to be the beast of burden. I used to be somebody who took that on, and it was painful when people walked away, and I no longer had them in an environment where they could be influenced, because then they left me. When I knew that wasn't coming out, I was stuck with it. And Aaron's the same way. And because we were strong, we thought we could handle it. We no longer take on people's gifts. That is no longer our calling. Our calling is for them to show up from the toe up so they can grow up, find their core, and release what it is they've been brought here to do, because we're now in service. When we're of service, we're collecting things. When you're serving others and that's your sole focus is to serve them, be whoever they need you to be, transform into whatever they need you to be in that environment. Now, all of us were probably put there as kids, as children. That's where we learned how to do this. Or we were put in a classroom and the teacher said, do this, and we did it. And we were taught to be this way. We were never, unless you went to a special school, and they have them now, I would have been all over it. Unless you went to a school where you were allowed to be exactly who you were born to be, all the time, 100%, and you were given one task at a time until you saw it to completion. Then they gave you another one. Now, everyone's moving at a different pace. No one's telling you that what you're doing is wrong. You're then left to figure it out, and you stay in your frontal lobe. You stay in that place of curiosity, creativity, and you're allowed to be one with your heart, your brain, and your soul. You're allowed to feel things and not told what to do. And you're allowed to understand who you truly are. That is where you find ultimate freedom. We can all go back there. We can all find it. It's still there inside of us. And so as you then continue to grow, understand that when you take a metric of what's going on, you get to see, and it's that story of the rock and the ripple. And is it happening in it as a calmness? Is it a ripple you're seeing and you're like, wow, that's amazing on a still glass lake? Or is it this storm and torment and all of this stuff going on that you keep finding yourself in, and you're like, all right, who do I need to be to get through this? Who do I need to be to get through this? And all you can think about is getting through the storm, getting through the storm. And you think that if you go from one storm to another storm, you're better because it's new. And it doesn't, right. You don't then find that peace. So what I look at is I say, all right, so if this is the case, and now I can find peace within, no matter where I am. If that's the case, and I fully understand my purpose here, and I'm going to share my gift with the world, regardless of, I'm not doing it for anything in return. It's all about the journey. It's all about the process with judgment free. You'll start to go back, and what's cool is where you picked up that software, where you picked up that operating system, the moment you picked it up, when this starts to come out, you will then be able to pull up that memory free of emotion and go, wow, That's where that all happened. Now it's making sense. And when you get affirmation, you become the rock. You become the rock so that other people can be free and feel the energy field of what freedom really feels like and feel the release. Because that's what the rock does. The rock is a source of potential energy. When it hits the water, it releases the water's potential energy. And that's what's going on in the process. Mm-hmm. And water is a very, very powerful thing. If you don't believe me, try not drinking it. There's a lot and in water. Trust me, go look at some studies if you want to see the science behind it. But water is extremely powerful, especially when it comes to energy. And that's why we are water. And that's why when we are flowing, we were not put on this earth to collect any physical thing or emotional thing. It's not why we're here. We're here to evolve. We're not here to collect. Stop collecting shit. Stop holding on to things. Yeah. That's what's really important here.
Well, Keith, the interesting thing is depending on the generation that I'm having the conversation.
Look who just came on. Can you see that? Can you see that name?
No.
Mark Rock Miranda.
Mark Rock Miranda? No, I don't see it.
I have no idea. That's who just came on. Mark Rock Miranda. If you're still on this, can you drop a comment in? Mark Rock Miranda. As we speak of the rock and the ripple.
Let's go. Yeah, okay, I get it. So the interesting thing what I was saying, Keith, is depending on the generation of the individual I'm talking to, the vision and the clarity of where they're going today, right, varies. If you talk to an 18 to 35-year-old, maybe even an 18 to 25-year-old, okay, it's interesting. The abundance of what's possible for them in their life is way more abundant than someone who is over 40, okay, or even over 50. If you're talking to them about their goals, if you're talking to them about their desires, many of them, okay, and I'm talking the ones that are over 40, many of them are already set, okay? And what I mean by set is that they are no longer open to change. Their opportunity window has closed because they've chose that the breeze was way too much. There was way too much going on, so they closed the window. And they said, you know what? Enough. They sealed it. They locked it. They put the little safety locks on it. There's nothing opening in that window because the variable of change, right, can be so fearful for someone who doesn't know their worth. All they know is what the world was willing to show them they were worth, right? So they didn't really have a chance to show themselves that they were capable of change anytime they choose to. Excuse me. Whereas if you talk to someone within the ages of 18 to 35-year-olds, right, because of the internet, because of the abundance of information, right, because of a Gary V, because of people that have went on social media and online and look at the YouTubers, because you're able to get 1 million hits on a video of what you enjoy doing, you can get paid, right? An abundance of income that keeps coming in residually because of what you're doing. I mean, you look at kids playing with their parents. The abundance and the opportunity is amazing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Keith. Knowing what I know now at 41, having so many conversations with people with all ages, all generations, what I'm learning is that what we have right now, okay, may at one point become worth a monetary value where you'll have to pay for it. You will no longer be able to go on live streaming, right, without a charge, right? Because at this point, it's still growing so fast that many people can't capture it, okay? Now, if you look at the technology and you look at the way it's growing, right, it's always been the same way. It's just evolving and people are finding different and more creative ways to use it. It's the same thing in life. As you get older, you should be able to take all of your past experiences and say, now I'm well educated in all of these areas. Not that these things limit me, but they give me abundance and understanding and knowledge, knowing that if I see a remnants of it, I can use the same principles and skills that I developed during those trials, right? And that's what the younger crew is doing. You're seeing these younger people figuring out a creative way, right, to make a living based on the things that they enjoy and leveraging it and not wanting to do what their parents and grandparents did. it's interesting. And you talk to people about their vision. You say, you know, what are your plans in the next 3 to 5 years? And if you talk to the people that are over 40, they say, I'm going to be doing what I'm doing right now. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, to me and you, it sucks, but to them, they're fine with it.
Yeah, it's safe.
Well, it's safe. It's a level of familiarity. I don't know if it's safe.
My bad. Yeah, you're right.
They understand, right? It's just a level of exactly. And so, whereas if you have a younger mind that is growing up around abundance, right, and possibility and opportunity and all this other stuff, and you start to see those individuals grow with creativity, they're able to leverage it. And they're like, well, you know what, I don't do it no more. And, you know, the employers are bugging out because, you know, the employers are like, why is this person not accepted? I put them on, you know, I don't know, probation. I put them on probation because they show up late every day. You know what? If you don't stop allowing, I'm out or I'm going to get, listen, I had one person say, I was talking to an employer. So, you know, we do a lot of stuff for employers and helping them to see, you know, how to get the best out of these millennials. And I said, listen, if a person shows up at 10 o'clock every morning and you yell at them and scream at them, then you know what? Eventually you're going to lose them.
Yep.
I said, if they come at 10 o'clock, just imagine if you didn't bother them when they came in, you allowed them to do their work, you allowed them to do what they do great, right? And then they left for their day. What's the point of giving them a hard time about what you feel is right in regards to the time that they should start? If they're not ready to rock and roll at 9 o'clock in the morning, then why would you make them come in at 9 o'clock in the morning?
I don't want them here.
No, you don't want them there because, again, they're going to think about you dictating how they do their time. And that's not why you hired them. You didn't hire them for their time, right? You hired them for their skill. So that's the change.
If you hired them for the right reason, yes.
Exactly. Well, I tell you what, employers are losing their mind and they don't understand what's going on until we actually open up the opportunity and say, listen, guys, things are changing. Right? You no longer going to put someone in a box and dictate what they do because your business won't grow. Your business is going to grow on the creativity that you bring in and the skill set of the individual that you're bringing in, not the matter of whether or not they are on time or not. That to them is not important, right? It's quality over quantity, right? You want someone there for 8, 9, 10 hours, right? But if only productive work is 4 hours, then why don't you just hire them for 4 hours?
Bounce, yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. But again, this is the way that we're doing things, and you can see it, Keith. And we talk about the past and how it dictates someone's future because they look at it as all they know and all they'll ever know. And we know that those 4 stages of inception, you know, uncertainty, deception, and transformation and identity, you know, that half pipe has been the biggest model that has ever hit my life. You know, as I look at it, I can plug into it. Because it helps me to realize, it's like, well, you know what? Am I living in inception? Am I living in excitement? Am I living in familiarity? You know what I mean? Like, what am I living in? And then when I get into the deception part or the uncertainty part, when change starts happening, right? Before I would run from change, right? Or before I would be fearful of change, or I would question change. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why me? All these things of justification where that was none of my business. It's what else does this mean? What could this mean? Right? What opportunities now are rising for me? And then all of a sudden you start to realize that is really where, you know, really where the magic happens. Is if you can do
bottles, you're like, oh, this sucks. Okay, let's pop bottles now.
Let's go, right? And let's change, let's adjust and readjust. And so it's just interesting, Keith. And because we talk to so many people, we have so many conversations, when we walk into a corporation or we walk into an establishment that has a very strong structure of a corporate environment where it's structured in a way that there's certain parameters and there's no boundaries. I'm saying there's a lot of boundaries, less unlimitedness. It's interesting because you start to see it and you're like, wow, like, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought of that? And they go, oh, no. But you know, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so we want to be able to live more in that. And we got a lot of gold here, guys. I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming in. So let's go back. I want to read some of this stuff. So Dustin talks about, and Dustin's always dropping some knowledge. But before I get into Dustin, because hey, Susan, what's up? So Billy talks about, he says, your best life is now. Your best life is now. Forgive the wrongs from the past and look forward to a brighter future. You are as free each moment that you are alive as the second a school bell rings on Friday afternoon. Remember that feeling? Remember that bell ring? It was like, I'm out. What's going on, Wheels? Michelle says she's late, but she can't wait. Watch the replay. But I know she's still getting gold here. Billy talks about release the ego. I think that is, oh my gosh. I mean, edging got out. I think that right there to me in regards to ego is huge. Learn from the past, focus on the present, and be optimistic towards the future. Absolutely. Look at abundance. Look at what's next. I mean, the fact that you got up this morning with an opportunity for another 24, theoretically, but really just the next minute, right? That's what you got. Yeah. Go for it all. And, Michelle comes now and says, the past is the past, grow and go. And now Dustin comes in with some gold. He says, I look at my past as nothing more than a book. Didn't we hear that this morning, Keith?
Yeah.
As a vivid reader, right? I often feel a number of emotions when reading the book. I still feel the residue of those feelings. Oh, this sounds really familiar. When I think back on my favorite characters and the ups and downs they experience in their own stories. It all ends there, though. He says he doesn't carry any of those emotions with him into the now or into the future. Amen to you, brother. You figured it out. And he treats his life the same way, right? Where he's able to, his past is behind me. Where he says, while I have gathered knowledge and information through experiences, I don't let them dictate my future. Exactly. Let them be guiding systems and saying, okay, I've been here before. What can I do better? Take the knowledge from the past and shape your own future. Amen to you, Dustin. Gosh, oh, that's awesome, man. Christine says, release her limits. Yes, I'm ready for living for change. Amen. And have a crew of people around you to support you. You need spotters. Nick says we're going deep. Oh, yeah, brother. Absolutely, man. And Dustin says, water is life. Water is in and a part of all of us. It is forever moving and flowing. Absolutely. You can't stop water. It's interesting how a leak happens, right? It could be right there or it can be completely somewhere else. It's found its way with gravity and it finds, you're right. And he says it is susceptible to change. When the water stops moving, it stagnates, right? It dies. Everything in it dies. Look at the Dead Sea, right? Nothing lives in it, right? It's just a collection. And Billy says, egotistical people carry too many burdens and they take everything personally. But a healed person has inner peace that goes beyond understanding and they don't get offended so easily. Man, how do we get around such amazing people, Keith?
I'm just saying, man, it's the law of attraction. These guys are gold.
My gosh. Wow, man. It's such a great feeling to know that these people exist because honestly, Keith, we wouldn't even have known unless we've opened up ourselves and said, you know what? It's not about us. It's not about our ego. It's not about Aaron and Keith, right? It's really being an opportunity open up, right? How to use this live, how to create voice, oh, here we go.
Oh boy. How to use your phone to take a video.
and just allowing that abundance to flow through us, man. It's so amazing. And I'm so thankful. So thankful. Aaron, you're welcome, brother. You're welcome. You want to take us out, Keith?
Yeah, man. So for all the people that chimed in today, the loves, the likes, the comments, this is the heartbeat of the broadcast. And for all of those people that'll see this on replay, the hundreds, the thousands, the millions that will be influenced from this message as we continue to share it and it finds its way into the hearts of others, we implore you to use this as your platform, as your springboard to get after your life. It's time. Release, be free on this Freedom Friday. We will see you Monday, same time, same place in the tank with Aaron Hairston and Keith Deyo, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Be you, be free, and let's go. Peace.